39 years ago this week, Tillman Island welcomed a very special visitor who climbed aboard a skipjack to watch our watermen at work, and then he enjoyed a little down-home hospitality in the local firehouse.
He was an actor, a radio personality, and as a matter of fact, our 40th president, the Gipper himself, Ronald Reagan, made a controversial visit to the Eastern Shore. And Jim Duffy of Secrets of the Eastern Shore is here to help us step back in time and get a feel for what that big day was like in one of our little Delmarva towns. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
It was a little controversial, this visit, wasn't it?
It was. So I go through, who knows, a whole bunch of newspaper articles, and you know, he had made like a controversial appointment to somebody that the environmentalists didn't like to post, and the environmentalists did, you know, a lot of environmentalists, not all of them, but a lot of them didn't like Ronald Reagan, and they thought that he was coming here to use the Chesapeake Bay as a political backdrop for his inadequate policies and everything like that. And there were other things, but the main thing that I took away while reading this is, like, time goes by, you know, 39 years since then. And all that screaming and yelling, the stuff we all scream and yell about today, it all kind of fades away into the background, and it seems boring more than anything else. It's the most boring part of the story.
So did he make a big speech or anything?
He did, but that was boring too.
Oh.
Basically, he said, you know, what everybody believes. He said, we would really like to leave a Chesapeake Bay that's clean and productive for future generations.
That was it?
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Stop the presses, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So, mishaps? Were there any?
Yeah. The fun stuff, when you go back after time goes by like that, the fun stuff is the local people and their reaction. There was one woman who told a reporter, she was taking a picture of the president as he was going by, and tears were streaming down her cheek. Do you know why tears were streaming down? It wasn't because she hated him or she loved him or anything else. It was because nothing ever happens on Tillman Island. And I can't believe something like this is actually happening in my town. Now, that's kind of crazy to somebody like me, especially, but really to everybody. I mean, you know, skipjacks and canneries and shipbuilding and all the stuff that makes us what we are happens all the time, and happened all the time through the centuries on Tillman Island. Anybody who's got any doubts about that should go to the Tillman Island Watermen's Museum. Right. The next time they go there. They're one of our really fine small museums.
How about that?
There was all kinds of people who were like that, like nothing ever happens here.
But then when Ronald Reagan came along,
Ronald Reagan came
that was a big deal.
It was.
There was a woman. Secret Service came. So this all happened in the blink of an eye. It was like 7 days. They announced the trip was coming. Nobody knew he was coming, and then all of a sudden they had 7 days to prepare. So the Coast Guard and the Secret Service, the state police are everywhere, and they're blocking roads, and they're building observation towers in people's backyards, and searching boats in the harbor. And there was another woman who really wanted to be a part of the excitement that finally came to Tillman Island. And her reaction when they didn't come and search her house was the equivalent of, what are we, chopped liver? We've got like 3 or 4 guns in here. Why aren't they coming to search our house?
They were looking forward to the argument. It didn't happen.
There were 2 parts of his stay on Tillman Island. The first, he got on the skipjacks, and he watched some watermen unload their catch, and the watermen talked to him about how worried they were about crab harvests, which were, you know, even worse back then than they are now. And the most dramatic moment in that time was when the president reached down as if he was about to pet an angry live crab. One of the watermen had to kind of like politely say,
no, sir, not a good idea.
You really don't want to do
Bad
that.
idea.
There was a lot of tension because of all the Secret Service activity, and you know, people are mad, roads are closed, all that kind of stuff. They broke the tension by doing a softball game. It was Tillman Island against the White House.
Oh.
And instead of all that controversy stuff we started with, that seems like the most important thing to report, that Tillman Island beat the White House 16-6. And everybody had a crab feast afterwards.
That sounds like a banner day.
The ladies' auxiliary served him lunch in front of like 60 people, but there's one more thing that I want to share, which is a waterman named Pete Schweitzer, I think his name was. And he too was like, nothing ever happens here. It was the whole theme of all the stories notorious with the locals. And you know, Tillman Island is like 25 miles away from the county seat of Easton.
Right.
And sometimes when people live in remote places like that, they kind of feel disrespected, like all the attention goes to the important places where the courthouse are and everybody ignores us. So he was marveling over all the cameras and the reporters and everything, helicopters and everything else that was going on. And his quote in the paper was, "After today, everybody all over the world is gonna know where Tillman Island is, ... Even them people in Easton." That was my favorite quote.
That's a great one. Jim Duffy, author of Secrets of the Eastern Shore.